Welcome to Camp AMA in the afternoon. I'm joined here with my friend and special guest, AJ Jaffe.
Hey Kyle, how you doing, man?
I'm doing great, man. It's so good to have you on here as we kind of jump into this AMA Junior Camp experience. This is one of those things where we're bringing in these conversations to have with kids and adults. This is open to everybody, not just members, not just kids who have signed up for camp, but trying to give people a little taste of what this virtual camp experience is like and afford people the opportunity to speak to some industry leaders, some experts in the field. And as such, man, your name was right there at the list, man. I was excited to talk to you. So if you
Appreciate
wouldn't
it.
mind, AJ, just give us a little bit of your background and kind of how you got started modeling and what you do now.
Yeah, so I've been flying for over 20 years now. I got into it with my dad. I've been around the hobby my entire life. My dad would take me to the flying field and let me roll around on blankets while he was learning how to fly before I could even walk. So I was crawling around models. So it's definitely in my blood. Actually, really started on helicopters more than anything else. Lately, in the last few years, I've done more giant scale airplanes, but still have the helicopter stuff as the background. As the it's still the bread and butter for me. Used that. Ended up actually working at an online hobby shop for a little bit as doing some sales with them, using my knowledge of the helicopters. And then from there, moved on to be a test pilot for a UAV startup. And then from there, I was lucky enough to latch on to NASA, where I've done all kinds of different things, from doing some piloting, mostly with the multi-rotor stuff, instructor piloting with multi-rotor stuff, to really just being able to use my knowledge of radio control and UAS in general in the industrial side, and to work with people who aren't necessarily as familiar with UAS as they are with science. They're really using it for research. So I've been able to help them out and teach them and really find more ways to use UAS for research and industrial kind of stuff.
That's really cool. And so, yeah, the question of like, when did you get started? Like you were rolling around on a blanket, like a tiny kid, that's awesome.
Yeah, so I was about 10 years old. I think it was just before I turned 10 that I started flying.
Okay.
But again, I was around it. Started on the buddy box with a helicopter. Really, actually, I soloed a helicopter before I soloed an airplane.
Well, you got that
So,
backward, man. What are you thinking?
well, my dad was a helicopter guy, so he really, I mean, he flies airplanes a little bit now, but he's still almost all helicopters.
Okay.
So it's what we knew, it's what we had. So it was pretty early on in the buddy box stuff, but it worked out really well. I was able to, with the radios we were using at the time, I was able to just start out with the cyclic, the pitch and the roll, and then add the yaw, and then add collective after that. So it was really a kind of a phased approach, which made everything
It's
a
kind of
lot
stair-step
easier.
approach to learning. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. Because I mean, with this was back in flybar helicopters, so and not even a heading hold gyro, so they were still rate mode gyros. So having that stepped approach really definitely helped. Things aren't quite as stable as the multi-rotors that are out now.
That's awesome. Hey, I think we might have someone coming in. It looks like Claire might be in the stream now. Let me see if I can bring her in. We had some technical difficulties earlier, so thank you for being patient, everybody. Claire, can you hear me? I think she can't. I'll assume.
Looks like it's a little bit slow. Looks like it's a little sluggish there. I think you're using up all the bandwidth at AMA, Kyle.
Yeah, you know what? It's this big head of mine, I guess. Hey, we'll see if we can't get through some of the issues. I'm sure we'll work through that, sort it out. But as soon as Claire can jump in, it'll be fun to have her there. But it looks like her screen is frozen right now. So you got started with helis, the flybar setup, which is crazy to me. Just so you know, I'm afraid of helis. I love watching them. Like if there's a net between me and the heli, but it's something I've just on a simulator. I've had limited success, but never in person. So someday, I'm looking forward to having you next to me to try and teach me a little bit.
Yeah, we'll get you out at Urcha or something like that. We'll get you on a buddy box.
Yeah,
Anything's possible. We can make it happen for you.
We'll see what we can do. Let's see. I'm looking through the comment stream here real quick before I throw out more of my questions. Let's see. What is your favorite plane from Tracy Adams? So let's just throw that one out real quick.
So right now I prefer, so I fly IMAX, so the precision, the scale aerobatic stuff, that's my passion more so than 3D. So for me right now, it's the AJ aircraft, the 115 inch and the 123 inch AJ aircraft lasers. The precision allows me to, it makes me look like a better pilot than I actually am. So
There we go. That's a good one. I'll bring myself back in here real quick. And let's see. So someone had asked, had we already done the second project for the day with camp? And yes, the answer is yes, we did that this morning. However, if you got an email with the link to view that on YouTube, you can definitely jump in and check that out on your own time at this point. Eventually, all the camp AMA activities will be posted online for everyone to enjoy. So that will come up eventually. Let's see. All my FPGs appeared to have sustained a bit of damage. Nothing severe. Good. So someone's built it, had some fun, keep flying them. The nice thing is it's a foam plate, so you can always find more. So that is fun. Let's see. It looks like Claire might be jumping back in. Claire, can you hear me?
I can.
Hey, Claire's back.
But that's amazing.
All right. It's good to have you in, Claire.
Hey guys, sorry about that. I hope I can stay on longer than a couple seconds.
We'll see. Yeah, it's still coming through a little bit choppy, but hey, as long as we can have you here, we're excited to have you with us, Claire. So, Claire, just to catch up a little bit, I was just about to ask.
Thank you so much.
AJ,
have we been having fun so far?
Yes, we have.
Yeah.
How?
Okay, there's a lag. Good to know.
Yeah,
a little bit.
So, AJ, how do you incorporate model aviation into your day-to-day life?
So there's a couple of different ways. What I found, what I ended up using the most is the experience and learning what I know about everything about, not just about how the models fly, but about batteries, about some flight dynamic stuff. One of the projects I'm working on recently, there's been a lot of questions about lithium batteries, and I've been able to use the fact that I've been flying electric RC for a while now. I've been almost, other than the big gas planes, all the helicopters have been electric since like 2012 for the most part. So using that to try to help other really, really smart people who have all these great experiences but don't know about lithium so much, or the safety of lithium, or how to best go about charging it, or even some of the more, some of the battery math that we kind of take for granted with day-to-day RC life. So that's been kind of one of the more recent things that I've been doing. Other than that, I'm been responsible for some of the safety of flight for the Jet Propulsion Labs small UAS. So knowing what they're trying to do, understanding what they're trying to do, and what the payloads they want to carry and stuff like that, to try to figure out, okay, so this isn't going to work the way you want to do it. Let's figure out a way to make it work so we can accomplish your mission and still be as safe as possible. Things like flying at high altitudes, they don't necessarily think about the fact that a multi-rotor is not going to have the same payload capacity or flight time at a high altitude as it is going to be at sea level. Mm-hmm. So, trying to teach people different aspects of RC, and just using experience to help them out the best that I can to accomplish their science, because they're doing some really cool stuff. So the more cool stuff we can help them do, the more UAS becomes more, accepted, I guess.
Mm-hmm. Commonplace, it's not something too out of the ordinary, I guess.
Yeah.
That's awesome. So we had a question here from Dorothy Jensen. Do helicopters have rudder pedals? And so you can answer both for the full-scale side and the model aviation side.
So on the full-scale side, they do have rudder pedals. It's very similar. It changes the pitch of the tail blades, generally speaking, unless it's something like a NOTAR. But for a traditional helicopter, it's going to change the pitch of the tail blades to counter the torque or to go with the torque. So yes, they do. On the RC stuff, it's still the same left stick yaw as it would be. You're flying mode 2. It's the same left stick yaw that it would be on your traditional airplane.
Yeah, that's fair. And then I got to throw out, say hello to Mandy here. She's asking, how many NASA certs does AJ own?
So I actually only own NASA polo shirts. They're so commonplace everywhere else now that I actually don't have that many regular ones. So I think I'm up to 6 NASA polo shirts, different colors, different designs. Got to stick with the red power shirt for today.
Hey, man, I love it. It's all good. So we got a question from Elaine coming in. What was your experience like when you were at the research center for the Armstrong flight at NASA?
So the first time I went onto the Armstrong Flight Research Center, it was a little intimidating, just because of all the history that's happened at Armstrong. Edwards Air Force Base in Armstrong, that's where the shuttles used to land. That's where they did the mate and demate between the shuttle and the Carrier 747. So there's all this history, all the X-planes, so much stuff, so much history there. So you walk through and you just kind of walk down the halls, and you see some posters from other things. You interact with people who flew either who flew awesome airplanes or did chase or anything like that. And now I get to work with the people that are going to be flying the next X planes, the X-57 and X-59. I work with them on a pretty regular basis. So just the history of it, and just what can be accomplished and what has been accomplished and what will be accomplished by NASA and NASA Armstrong. It's
It
a little
sounds incredible.
intimidating.
It
Yeah,
sounds
and the
incredible.
model lab itself was, walking into the model lab the first time was pretty great too. Just seeing people who get it, you know what I mean, who
Yeah.
they know what it is, and it's just, there's cool planes. You go, this, look at all the history of this. This is what all these things are doing. This is what's going to happen. It's great people, and just a great environment.
That's awesome. We have one other question, which was, I believe, here it is from Brandon. How many planes do you have? So I'm assuming they'd
If we're
mean
counting
fixed wing,
planes and
not.
helicopters. Well, so if we're
Okay.
counting planes and helicopters, the numbers kind of fluctuate a little bit depending. Right now, there are 3 helicopters that I fly regularly and 3 airplanes that I fly regularly. My giant scale, and then a couple of foamies that are just the go out to the park and try to keep the fingers moving. But 14, 15, something like that.
That are
And
airworthy
it
right now.
fluctuates. Yeah, that are airworthy right now. And it depends. I actually I have a Timber X Knight waiting for me at the hobby shop right now to go pick up and play with.
Perfect. I love to hear it. So we have a question. What does UAS mean from Tyler?
So sorry about that. So UAS stands for Unmanned Aircraft Systems. That's the entire system for the unmanned, for everything. That includes the vehicle itself, the ground station if you're using that, the transmitter, and SUAS or small UAS are just that. They're smaller unmanned aircraft systems that are generally below 330 pounds is what's considered a Category 1 or Category 2 small UAS. And that's what we're able to fly. That's what the model lab, that's what we're able to fly, generally speaking. And I know Red Jensen's going tomorrow, and I'm sure he'll elaborate a little bit more on the model lab. But yeah, that's generally what we fly. It's in the typical drone that's not a Predator or a Global Hawk or something, big in military, the small UAS is going to be 330 pounds or less, and generally fly less than about 200 miles an hour.
So on average, out of the stuff that you guys are flying out of there, like what is the average weight? I know it varies depending on the mission, but like if you had to put a number on, this is the average of something we're flying.
So it depends on the class. So the multi-rotor stuff is generally below 25 pounds. It's commercial off the shelf. We call it COTS. It's stuff that you can buy that's commercially available for the most part. Usually it's modified a little bit. The fixed wing stuff that the Model Lab's flying, you're usually looking between the droid, which is what we normally fly, is about 80 pounds, and then up to about 300 pounds for our 60%, we call it the micro cub, 60% scale cub.
Cool. And it looks like Claire's back in.
Hi, guys.
Change of scenery now, but you're coming through great now.
I am now in a conference room sitting on the floor.
What you didn't realize when you tuned in was that you were also going to get a tour of the AMA thanks to Claire.
Here we are
Like
in one of the conference rooms.
It's all good. It's all good. Well, Claire, welcome back in. We've just kind of been sharing back and forth a few questions. And I think one of the questions that we had was your third bullet point, if you wanted to jump in and ask that one.
Oh, that would be perfect. So, if you guys watched the stream yesterday, I had a few questions kind of queued up for our guest speakers. And one of the things I wanted to ask today was how, AJ, how did model aviation help you professionally?
So with a lot of things, you got to find something that you're really good at. You can use, if you find yourself with a particular skill set, especially a unique skill set, I found that you can go further. You can make a career out of it if you work real hard. Um, I may not be the best pilot, but I do understand and I do know a lot. I have a huge passion for model aviation, and so with that passion and that knowledge of what we were of what how everything works and how it's supposed to work, um, that really helped me to understand and to be able to use that particular skill set to get somewhere in the industry.
Awesome. Thank you. That's a great answer. Thank you so much. Now, I don't know how much you guys have talked about because I've missed 20 minutes of it trying to find somewhere to sit and get a good connection here. But did you talk about your first introduction to model aviation, AJ?
Yeah, we
You
did
did?
mention that a
Okay.
little bit. Yep, a little bit. Yeah, just it's kind of recap a little bit. It's my dad is who got me flying. He would take me to the flying field when I was just a baby, and then
Aw.
he taught me how to fly in the buddy box. So we went from there.
That's fantastic. I love that. And I think, while I was kind of having a choppy connection, you talked a little bit how you incorporate model aviation into your day-to-day work.
Yeah.
Do you have a lot of enthusiasts, like model aviation enthusiasts at your place of work?
So they kind of come in groups. So Red, who's
Of
your
course,
guest
Red.
tomorrow. Yep. Those in the model lab, they definitely, we that group of them and me kind of by default, we came into this knowing RC and living RC and it being a passion to start with as opposed to kind of learning. Depending on which project I'm on and who you're talking to, there's two different kind of groups. There's a group of people who look at unmanned aircraft as something really cool and something they want to get into more, even just on a personal side rather than just work. And there's the group that see UAS as a tool, as a shovel, as a stapler. It's a tool to get their science done, and their passion isn't necessarily there from how we would normally look at it, but they see the purpose, they see the point, and they go from there.
Their passion is the data and the science behind it and what that means for the future. But I guess on the flip side, that's really cool for me. But man, going out and flying, that's where I'm at. That's where I'm having fun.
Yeah, and I'm a similar way. And unfortunately, actually, I don't do as much flying as I would like to work-wise. There's other people who are doing that are just more, that's their job and they're incredibly good at it. I do more kind of the background of stuff, the safety of flight and making sure that people understand how UAS works and how to operate UAS safely if they're not for the more of the scientists.
That's awesome. We had a question over here from our speaker yesterday, Mason Hutchison, over in the comments section. Let me see if I can find it while our producer pulls it up. Where was it? I know his handle now. There it is, landing gear engineer. Okay. Hi, AJ from Mason. Tell your favorite AMA Expo story. If you guys aren't familiar, AMA Expo is our big convention that we hold every year, and it is pretty exciting. If you've ever heard of San Diego Comic-Con, it's like that, but for model airplanes. It's pretty awesome. I've never been. I have my major FOMO. But AJ, please tell us your best story about AMA Expo.
So, AMA, it's all about the people. You get to see people you don't see all the time. You get to see so AMA West, you see a lot of the people from the aviation community out here. A couple of good ones. The last couple of years, we've had a friendly competition between NASA and Scale Composite, where Mason works. We come up with something new every year. The first year, we did some pylon racing and then combat. And that was fun because we all started modifying the flight test airplane. We all started modifying a little bit, and I made this just comically large rudder that just flopping in the breeze. It was like a fishtail the whole time. You could hear it. You could always follow my flying through the sky. It was, but of course, NASA did of course win because we're NASA. So
here it comes.
So are you saying that Mason is like your best frenemy? Is that what you're saying?
Scaled in general, they're all, they're good, but the last two people standing after the pylon race, so Red won the pylon race, and the last two people standing in combat were Red and myself, and I took Red out, which bugged him a little bit, but it was, I gotta do what you gotta do.
We'll be sure to talk to him about that tomorrow.
Yeah, for sure. Probably my favorite story, though. So as I mentioned, we have a 60% scale cub that we bring to the expo, and it's very big. Yeah. And those of you who don't know me, I'm not the tallest guy. So Tim Hannestein from Northwest RC came up. He's a good friend of all of ours. He came up and points to me and goes, "Look, you have a 60% pilot for your 60% cub." I had to sit down. I was like, "Oh, that's it. I got nothing for that. That's my day. That's I'm just gonna go. I'm going home. It's done. I try to be pretty quick witted, but he got me. He got me so good. And
yeah, that's fair.
It's kind of the running joke now between every time the NASA guys we see him.
Well, the good thing is, as soon as you sat down, you were hidden. Nobody could find you, so it's all good.
Yeah, exactly. I just looked right over my head. It's fine. There's no problem there.
I'm sorry. I'm going to hear about that one later.
No.
Yeah. AJ, you can get me back later, brother.
Oh, I'm sure I will.
So we have a viewer question from the Space Viking. What projects are you either currently working on at NASA or have recently worked on? I think we should add an addendum that you're allowed to talk about in public, because I know you have those
that's the cool
NDAs
thing about NASA.
there.
Well, that's the cool thing about NASA is that most of what we do is pretty public. So I've worked on a few different projects. The ones that I've kind of been the most hands-on was an acoustics project that worked on trying to quiet down an airplane on landing. So we used a Gulfstream G3, and they did all kinds of different things with landing gear fairings, cavity treatment, stuff like that to try to quiet it down on landing, because the reality is that the loudest thing isn't really the engines on landing because they're pretty much at idle. It's the flaps and the landing gear. It's the drag that makes it the loudest. So what I did, we did this really big microphone array on the dry lake bed, and I flew a UAS with a speaker on it to calibrate it before and after every flight. That way they could had 3 or 4 different tones on it, and they could calibrate the array so that they could track better what the sounds coming from off the airplane were. So that was a lot of fun. I've worked on a lot of the Jet Propulsion Lab small UAS projects. They have some earthquake detection stuff. They have some methane detection stuff, which is pretty cool. What I'm working on right now is called Urban Air Mobility. It's basically air taxis the theory is the future. So NASA's doing what's called the National Campaign, and so I'm working as an operations engineer on that project, trying and helping out the team with getting the test ready.
That's really cool.
That's awesome.
Here's a question from FPV Reviews. Any advice for building or designing a solar-powered plane?
I don't know as much about this. Red's going to be the one. You should ask him that tomorrow. But my assumption, what I think would be build it light and a high aspect ratio, so you have a lot of wing, and just try to keep it as light as you can.
We actually have a solar-powered airplane over at the National Model Aviation Museum. Did you know that?
Mm-hmm. I did. It's actually a NASA plane, if I recall correctly.
Yeah, it is a NASA plane. So I was trying to trick you.
I'm sorry. I've been there too many times. I've spent too many hours there. So,
that's awesome.
Yeah, I do. You guys got a couple NASA stuff there.
Claire, I had to throw this one up when I saw it come through the comment stream. There is a colored tape. AJ, this is from our conversation this morning. Claire was saying she needed highlighter tape in some way.
Thank you, Nicholas. Kyle, I need a million rolls of this tape, please.
We will work on that. We will work on it.
That's
Thanks,
amazing. I love it. That really would help me out. Oh, that's a great question from Irina. What is the most valuable skill that you took from NASA? What did you learn there that's really helped you?
Man, that's I think probably the most valuable skill is really just listening to other incredibly smart people. that just they know so much about little things, and you can pick up things just walking down the hall, if you're paying attention, and to not be afraid to ask questions. If if there's something that you're interested in, everyone that I work with is so cool, that you can ask them questions and they'll tell you all you want to know. So that's probably the most valuable thing, is just to use the knowledge that's around you to build your own knowledge, because it's gonna kind of go back and forth. You're gonna know things that they don't know, and vice versa. So to build those relationships and to pay attention to other people, you can learn a lot and become better at everything you do. Things that I've taken into the model aviation kind of stuff, some of the design elements, and just thinking things through a little bit differently and planning ahead a little bit more. And then vice versa, I can bring them things from model aviation, again, battery kind of stuff, and just little bits of this, little bits of that.
That's awesome.
That's
I
really
love
cool.
that. Let's see. What other questions do we have going on here?
Oh, Tyler threw one out that's kind of fun. Didn't NASA make a solar plane that flew for basically a really long time?
So NASA helped with that, but if that's the one I'm thinking about, that was AeroVironment that made that one, and they did some testing with NASA. NASA was a partner, but if it's the one that I'm thinking about, AeroVironment is the one who they did the actual build of it. We helped.
That's one of the coolest things that NASA does and that you guys do there, is that you're willing to partner and help and assist
Absolutely.
others that are involved in lots of really cool stuff. Like that partnership is evidence at our local flying field, and it's evident within the community of aviation too, in a lot of regards. And that's something that NASA really, I think, has a hat to hang on and be proud of.
Yeah, I mean, we're a little bit limited in our, in our personnel, right? So it's still a government job. Even we have contractors and government, but there's still, our funding is from you guys. You guys, we're taxpayer funded, so we can't do everything that we want to do. But what we can do is we're all relatively smart people. We can lend our expertise and our facility and little things here and there to other companies who also are filled with very smart people. And you put your heads together a little bit, and everyone can kind of save money and accomplish really cool things.
That's awesome. I have a question here from Elijah that I think will spur some good discussion. He asks, "What is something or someone you were glad you had when you joined NASA?" We're getting a little philosophical here.
The drive to succeed.
Nah, it was the fact that I had flown just about every kind of aircraft that existed. So between obviously helicopters, airplanes, multi-rotors, and my previous job, some unique VTOL transitioning, vertical takeoff and landing transitioning aircraft that some of them flew pretty well and some of them flew really badly. So, I've had experience flying just about every type of aircraft. And so I have, I may not, have a ton of experience with everything, but I have a little bit to draw on for everything. I've flown obviously gas airplanes and nitro helicopters, electric of everything. So having had my fingers in a little bit of everything in terms of power systems, I've done a little bit of turbine stuff, not a ton. Flow some gliders, actually started doing some slope soaring out here with the NASA guys.
I love slope soaring. Every time anyone talks about it, I get so excited.
Yeah, so having that little bit of everything, having that little experience and a little bit of everything, having touched a little bit of everything it's something I'm definitely glad I had, so that I feel like the more you know, the less surprises you.
That's awesome. Let's see, what do we got here in the comments section?
I've been looking through as well. There's some great ones, but we are coming up on 30 minutes, so we're getting close.
What? There is actually one very important question that I want to ask you that I'm asking all of our guest speakers, which is a great way for us to close out our discussions. AJ, what advice do you have for model aviation enthusiasts, as well as all of our campers that are here today? What kind of advice do you have for them, and how can they apply their interests to their future careers in aerospace, like you've done?
So there's a couple different things to think about. One is if you want to be doing some of the testing and you want to be flying UAS for the industrial side of things is that you can't fly it the same as you fly your own stuff. Everything is a lot more rigid and planned. You can't just go out and do loops and rolls because that's what you feel like doing. You have to have a plan. You have to be able to follow a plan. So that's a big thing. Is if when you're flying, be able to be precise as well. Learn all your precision stuff as well. I definitely would recommend if you're trying to do the flying stuff, learn how to fly everything multi-rotor in the instability mode and in just the regular rate mode, so that they are a little bit more active. Helicopters, airplanes, gliders. The more you know and the more experience you have, the more valuable you are. And just learn as much as you can about everything. Learn how everything works to the best of your ability. Learn why lithium batteries behave how they behave. Learn why a glider flies longer than a foam stop sign. The aerodynamics of that a little bit. You don't have to do calculus. You don't have to do theoretical physics on it, but learning the basics really, really helps everything, I think. So just learn, find people at your club that know the most, that have the most experience, and listen to them, ask them questions. That's what this hobby is all about, is that everyone's so cool to each other. So if you have the questions, ask them the questions. And if they don't know, find somebody else, do some research yourself, but learn as much as you can about everything in the model aviation side of things, because a lot of that really does transfer over into the manned stuff. So it's just my knowledge of helicopters has kind of helped us a little bit in the project that I'm working on now. Just I understand how helicopters work, even though it's not the same. Sure, they're not going to go and do pro flips and TikToks with a manned helicopter. The basics of how they fly.
Please don't do that.
The Red Bull guys, they do some pretty cool stuff, but probably not going to do that with our NASA tests. But just the knowing how things work has definitely really been beneficial, and it's the way to show what you know. The math and everything like that, the engineering is great. If that's what your passion is, definitely go to school for that and learn the theory behind it all and everything like that too. But knowing how everything works in practice is really important, and it can take you a long way.
That's awesome, AJ. Thank you so much. I want to thank you, of course, for being here, and all of our campers and all of our would-be campers who tuned in this afternoon. This has been another live stream from the Academy of Model Aeronautics AMA Junior Camp on Tuesday, July 7th, 2020, and this was live, so we answered a bunch of really cool stuff. So if you're watching this at a later date and we can't answer your questions, go ahead and email me at education@modelaircraft.org. Now, for all you campers out there, be sure to join us at 11 a.m. Eastern Time tomorrow morning for project number 3. And I think AJ would really enjoy this project because it has a little something to do with rockets. So I hope that you'll tune in as well, AJ. Thanks
Sounds
you
good.
guys so much. Have a great day.
Thank you guys for having me. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, we had a great time, man. We'll talk to you later. Bye-bye.